Hi.
Hey.
Go. Now we're live. Hi. Beautiful to see you the first time. Actually, to be honest, I have no idea who you are, but I'm super curious to find out. Yeah, welcome. Bienvenue. Good evening to this conversation about sowing resilience. How do we feed self-organized resistances? Thanks to Food Culture Days for putting this up, and thanks for someone else is joining. Thanks you guys to be here tonight with us. And if someone is watching, thanks for being there with us. Yeah, I'm a bit excited, and as also I've heard, this is not the usual keynote speaker mode, and we shouldn't come as experts or specialists. It will be a bit of an improvisation. So I'm your facilitator tonight. My name is Florine, and as I understood, I won't really guide through this evening. Just try to open the space and try to keep it in a good way. But let's all do that together, I'd say. So beforehand, I'm really curious for our check-in and little introduction round, of course, to know who is with me here tonight. Maybe you all want to open up your mics briefly to say hi before I go into a few organizational details.
Hi.
That would be nice.
Should we introduce ourselves, you said? I'm sorry.
Florine, I see some of your videos in black as well that way. Yeah, I thought maybe we do a little introduction round later, but just to have a bit of audible feedback, say hi to everyone and to each other beforehand. Yeah, but maybe we just start with a little check-in first then.
Yeah, sure.
Do not speak too much to strangers. I hope my connection is good. If I should break,
I think the connection it's a bit unstable.
If my sound breaks, please tell me and I try to go somewhere with better connection. My name is Florine, and I'm an activist with Extinction Rebellion in Berlin. I'm a community builder and concept developer, and socially engaged people in the Baltic Sea. Yeah, I help me. I would hand that over alphabet-wise. So next one would be Beatrice, please.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Around.
How about Beatrice from Berlin, because it's earlier in the alphabet.
Yeah, it's okay, I can start. Yeah, so as you see, my name is Beatriz. I work as an architect. I'm Spanish. I live in Berlin. Yeah, I work as an architect in my architecture office. It's pretty small, and I do either very small things like little changes at homes, private houses, or rather big planning for cities and more in the direction of urban planning. I'm also teaching at the university, and I'm very curious about this dialogue. I'm very much looking forward to see how it develops, because I've never taken part in this kind of dialogue as they explained.
Okay, sorry for the technical problems in the very beginning. I hope it's better now. I sit in a room with the internet. Okay, it's a bit of a mess here. Okay, sorry, ladies, for this bumpy start. Yeah, thanks, Beatrice, for your introduction. Nice meeting you. Beatrice Berlin. No, it was Beatrice Rio de Janeiro. Right? I missed the picture for most of it. So I would just hand over for the introductory round to Beatrice in Berlin, please. And afterwards, let's move to Phoebe and to Yael.
Other way.
Okay, it was me who was talking, so I think now it's Beatriz Rio de Janeiro.
So I got it right. Okay, sorry. Rio de Janeiro, Beatrice, please.
Hi, nice to meet you, all of you. I am a dancer, I think I can say that, and also a teacher. And I am working right now with a culture of bacteria and yeast of kombucha. And what I'm doing is basically studying how I manipulate this culture and translate these gestures, this process to movement, to hands movement. That's why I'm interested right now, and I'm very happy in being here. Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Phoebe. I'm currently living in Geneva, and I'm doing a research-based arts master, which involves a lot of writing, reading, and some sort of practice as well. And I've always been interested in food, and I have an arts background. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now? Is that better? Should I just start over?
It's okay.
Or okay. Okay. Yeah. So, sorry. My name is Phoebe. I'm living in Geneva. I'm doing a research-based art master in at the Head. So I come from a fine art background, and I do sometimes performance, sometimes installation. I've worked before with food, and right now I'm thinking about bread as a sort of metaphor for feeding social change. Yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Hi, I'm Yael. I have a PhD from NYU that I wrote in the Performance Studies Department in the performance of nationalism through cuisine in Israel. I've been teaching in NYU on food and culture and food and art, and I founded a nonprofit food and art festival in 2008 where we brought together artists that use food as a medium with other food professionals. Been writing and researching kind of at the intersection of food and art and food and culture with a kind of heavy focus on nationalism. And right now I'm working on a book that looks at both Israeli and Palestinian artists and how they use food as a way to explore questions of citizenship and nationhood. Yeah, that's about it.
Wonderful, thank you. And once again, sorry for the bumpy start. Coming back to the little organizational details, we have a sound to start the whole dialogue. This is this. And I close it again with this sound. This is rice in a tea bag. 10 to 7. So we have a bit less than an hour or a bit more than half an hour. And because I would love to also invite you for a checkout before we close the session. And in between, it should really be, you probably also had the briefing or read at least something about this dialogue. It should really be a conversation and not a discussion. I'm sure we'll handle that. Actually, I found a feather this morning, beautiful, that I wanted to use as the talking stick. Now I forgot it while moving rooms.
So I found this instead. And anyways, it's virtual. So the idea is that this is in the middle of our table, room, picnic blanket, or whatever we want to place us on. And who wants to speak, like, makes this movement towards the screen and picks this object, takes it, and keeps it while she's talking, and then putting it back down. And the next person who wants to speak, like, grabs it. And if we all want to speak at the same time, it should be chaotic. We just like place a little star in the chat, and then we have the order of the speakers. I'm sure we'll handle that fine though. And yeah, as said, this is not a conversation where we drop off our knowledge, like in the best case, but where we really engage. Nevertheless, I think it would be nice to maybe open with a round of all of us where we can like open up about some thoughts, ideas, questions that the seeding topic initiated in us, what has made it made resonate with us. So for everyone watching, the seed question, the seed topic for tonight again is sowing resilience. How do we feed self-organized resistances in the plural? And I don't bring answers or like strong suggestions. Of course, we all probably have our experiences and ideas about it. But instead, like, I would open this little round where every one of us like gets the chance to speak without like really responding to each other yet. We'll do that afterwards. I would like to start just with a few questions, because I was really wondering, like, what kind of resilience are we talking about? What kind of resilience do we need and want? What kind of resilience is there maybe already? And is resilience actually, that I looked up, is it really the opposite of vulnerability? Couldn't there be a resilience maybe where vulnerability has some positive space? And how do we sow that kind of resilience? How do we make it grow? And why is it about self-organized resistance? Is there like a not self-organized resistance? What could that be? What kind of resistances are we like practicing already? What else would we need? What kind of resistance? How do we get there? And is feeding enough? Like, shouldn't it be maybe nurturing, or better even like take the whole digestion circle in the picture, like the time it needs to really like take out the nutrients, and then what to do with the shit. I mean, if we talk about resistance, there's a lot to like shit to deal with, and how to turn that into fertilizer, for example. And why is this question with resistances in plural? So that's a lot of questions that came to my mind in the very first minutes. I thought about like in which direction that conversation could go. Yeah, so I would invite you all to just drop off first ideas, and maybe we reverse the circle before we then just whoever wants to talk talks, and who has nothing to say at the moment just passes on the word now in the first starting round. So this time the circle would go from Yael to Phoebe to Beatrice in Rio de Janeiro and Beatrice in Berlin. And I put the thing back in the middle.
So I'm taking it. There's so many avenues, I guess, so many approaches to this topic. Obviously, one of the things that I was thinking about, as I was reading this topic, is, currently I'm working on resistance and sort of looking at artists who use food in the context of, say, Palestinian resistance, right? That's very current, and how that happens. But then when I was thinking about this particular topic, I was reminded, feminist artists from the 70s, like the work of Martha Rosler and women that used food and their art to resist traditional gender roles and kind of basically took food and took the sort of kitchen as their sphere, and sort of did an intervention with that, but kind of by using the places they were stuck in, and building upon them to make to resist that pigeonholing, if you will. So because food is such an accessible medium on the one hand, and because it touches on all these different avenues, right? On all these different aspects of life, on economy, on gender, on religion, on nation, and all of these things. It's such a useful tool to apply to all these, questions of breaking traditional roles, and sort of using it as a call for action, if you will. And because it's kind of interactive and multisensory, it's a way to get people engaged, not just kind of speak at them, but get them engaged with the medium. So we see that in the work of artists, like feminist artists, or artists like Tunde Wei, who's using it to protest racial disparities in the US, or Palestinian artists talking about kind of resistance in the national sphere. And we see food coming into play in all of these places. Those were some of my initial thoughts. Not very eloquently expressed, but...
I just quickly jump in, for organizational reasons. Hello, Karimi. Welcome to the circle. We just had a little check-in and introductory round for all of us, and now we are sharing first ideas on the seed topic that you probably also know. And so I suggest that you just combine the check-in and little introduction and your first thoughts after Phoebe, we do a little circle. And for now, we're not responding yet necessarily. If you really want to, you can, of course, do that. And next one in the round would be Phoebe, and then Karimi, and then Beatrice.
Hi, Karimi.
Hi, everyone.
Quite a few initial thoughts, but it's also not going to be very eloquently expressed. I was just thinking of this article diplomatique.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I was just thinking of this article that I was reading in Le Monde Diplomatique that was talking about the lack of the difference between resilience and resistance. The fact that resilience is something that's really vaunted, and it's something that we are encouraged to do all the time. Like, we have to be resilient constantly because it's to basically to tide over whatever difficulty we have, which the political situation imposes on us, as opposed to resistance, like fighting against the very conditions that that we have to be resilient towards. You know what I mean? And so I guess or at least when I'm thinking of sowing the seeds, I'm thinking more of sowing the seeds of resistance rather than resilience. Maybe I should just take this off and see whether it works better. Hello, is that better? Much better? Okay. I'm so sorry. But I guess you heard kind of what I was saying before. So I won't repeat that. And then for this idea of the digestion, the circle of digestion and the nurturing, I recently have been thinking about anthropophagia, but I haven't really gone so much into it, but I like this idea of just this digestive circle, and trying to think of what the equivalents could be in a resistance movement, or like in any sort of social movement. And those are just some initial thoughts, also not very eloquently expressed. But yeah.
Karimi, are you with us? If you're here and you're ready, we would be curious to get your introduction.
Hi. Can people hear me? The connection, usually in Egypt, it's terrible connection. I'm connecting from a small village 1 hour west of Alexandria. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and to listen to TV. What was the prompt or the introduction question? Perhaps, Florine, you were saying I should introduce myself first.
Yeah, we had a little like introduction on just about us, like who we are, and also how we are here, if you want to, like briefly, and then like also sharing first ideas about the question sowing resilience. How do we feed self-organized resistances? Yeah, as a starting point. You don't need to elaborate yet. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I should probably get a small prompt for you to understand my connection to this work. Oi, dá o chimarrão aí. Okay, so we were just drinking mate, or chimarrão in Portuguese, with some friends here. I was at Food Culture Days, in 3 years ago, the second iteration, and talked about mate culture, how it has crossed the Atlantic from what is today Paraguay, north of Argentina, south of Brazil, to this part of the world, particularly to the Mount Lebanon area where Druze community lives, and the Syrian community, which has in the last 5 years migrated to Egypt, and people begin to see more cups with a straw sticking out and are wondering and asking questions, what the hell is that? But this is what I came to talk about and demonstrate a little bit how to prepare mate in the different cultural spaces. But I also tied it to my work as an educator here in Egypt. I set up an autonomous college in Islamic Cairo, historic Cairo, in 2013. It's definitely a brainchild of the revolutionary moment at the time, 10 years ago. And the college is alive and kicking. It's a liberal arts college, so focusing on humanities and social sciences. A lot of work around the history of food and food practice, anthropological work around food. I don't want to speak too long. I think it's more of an introduction. Huh? So, in terms of sowing resilience, I've been doing autonomous work since the last 10 years here in Egypt. It was like ups and downs and lots of turnarounds and lots of legal restrictions and state security all over us as civil society actors. And so just, keep going. That has been resilience for me here, and keeping the community alive, and autonomous college working, operating. I come to the coast really to recharge, because Cairo is a stressful place. So I'm in a small village where I don't know if I can I will just turn around the camera for a moment so you can see the seedlings that I planted 2 weeks ago. So I put some seedlings here in a row, because our neighbors decided to build a wall. Which it's not a very high wall. Once again, so more like the height of the legs, but it's still a wall. I wonder why they decided to do that. But in any case, we're planting. That's one last thing I'll say in relation to sowing resilience. I also live in the delta of Egypt, Western Delta, about 2 hours from Cairo, on a mango farm, where we've been growing mango since my grandfather's days, and thinking about how to do more environmental educational work on the farm around planting seeds, about maybe doing a seed bank at some point. And okay, I'll keep it at this point. My name is Karim. I just put the Karimi to sound a little more approachable. I don't know. I mean, that was a typo.
Sorry. Well, then
No, no, it's
Beatrice
okay.
from Rio de Janeiro would be the next in our circle.
My first thoughts about the topic, I think they have something to do with time, because thinking resilience for me is thinking it's how we can relate with different times, like past and present being interwoven in somehow. And I think food is a great medium for doing this. Here in Brazil, I I can stop thinking in the religion cultures that have an important base in how we cook and how we say things and do things with recipes. And I don't know. I think that resilience, this resilience that we are talking, that could be potential. For me, it's something like a message that is changing information through the time. I don't know. That is my first thought about the topic. And sorry for my wiki pronounce.
Tá ótimo seu inglês.
And Beatrice from Berlin, do you want to continue, please?
I take the thing. So yes, for me, what's much more inspiring this question of how to feed self-organized resistances, and the word resilience itself, because I think the word resilience, it could be everything. We live in a world that nowadays we need resilience, this capacity to this adaptability. Do you hear me well? Yeah, well, now better maybe. Yeah, this capacity of adaptation, it's something we definitely need nowadays. But when I first read this question of how to feed self-organized resistances, the first thing I thought was the different scales of the resistances. It could be from a very small scale, a resistance, as Yael mentioned, a woman using food to get out of the role of being a housewife or this domestic profession, or also the scale of the neighborhood. How does a neighborhood resistance can organize and can feed, no matter what the word feed means. It could be feed in terms of food, but it could be feed in terms of education, or it could be also feed in terms of inspiration and so many other things. Also material that the resistance needs itself to be organized and to be able to get the actions they want to do. And also it could be in the scale of the world. How if we understand the world also as a resistance, how can we the world is itself a self-organized resistance also, how can we feed it? And then I also thought about the question how to feed self-organized resistance. It sounds like the self-organized resistance is not feeding herself or itself, like it should be feed from somewhere else. So that made me think that we are not autonomous. We are never autonomous. We always depend on the others, and we always will need something from somewhere else. And yeah, those were my thoughts about the question.
Well, thank you so much. We have a very full picnic blanket. I prefer the picnic blanket to the table, by the way. So that's my symbol for tonight. And yeah, just let's start somewhere, wherever we resonate, I'd suggest. I even found my feather again. This is the original talking object. I put it here in the middle. Whoever wants it, grabs it. And we're not scared of silence neither. I think time to think is super important.
I just wanted to say I really appreciated Beatrice's last point about the materiality of food. That maybe is something to talk about. You talked about the material kind of in a wider context, but that might be, the fact that it's tangible and multisensory and, sort of the materiality of it is something that I think is really interesting to think about when we think of ideological context. Usually when you think about resistance, you think about ideologies, and it's like these very ephemeral concepts. And there's something really interesting to me about the sort of materiality and tangibility, if you will, of food as a way to make these ephemeral ideas concrete and approachable.
Something that I kind of imagined to hear a bit like in all of us, but maybe it's my personal topic, is that it's so hard work to resist and to be resilient all the time, or like be expected to be resilient. In our society, I think that's an ideal in a way. And so something that I'd be very interested in coming from this dialogue is to maybe identify points where we can support each other to or if it's just like exchanging knowledge or links sometimes, like how do we feed each other in our resistances? And once like this seed is sown now today, like maybe we have ideas what to grow together, or at least how we continue sharing our growth and putting it back.
Yeah, I think I was also very struck by Beatrice, your last point about how there are others feeding the self-organized resistances, and that basically that they're not alone and not autonomous. I think it's a really important point that also brings back to that it's like Florine, you said that it's really hard to maintain this rhythm of always resisting. And I think the idea of not being alone is really important. But I mean, what I'm interested is also just finding out the different roles that we can play in different struggles, whether it's like literally feeding or feeding intellectually. I think that was all I had to say.
I was just thinking that per Phoebe's point, that it's that resistance doesn't have to be like on a grand scale, that it can be very subtle, that it can be achieved in like these very small interventions and these very little everyday acts. Just some, when we say resistance and resilience, and we always imagine these big projects, but I think often the most effective, right, is just a very small very subtle, everyday resistances that build up over time.
Yeah,
Uh,
oh, I'm sorry. You can say. No? Okay. I think that's very interesting because I also think when I think of resistances that I always think in a bigger scale and very big movements. But I would be interested to know which is the minimum unit of resistance. Like, what could it be? It could be a material. It could be an idea. It could be an ideology. It could be an argument, and a discussion. And there I see that also, for instance, seeds, the word seeds, that I think it has appeared already sometimes in the dialogue. It could also be a pretty clear minimal unit of resistance when we talk about food.
yeah, I was going to raise more or less the same question as Beatrice. I was reminded of I work with a network of alternative universities called Ecoversities Alliance, and it's more than 100 like community-based educational projects of one sort or another. The website is ecoversities.org if you want to see what I'm saying. But we visited one in Oaxaca, in the south of Mexico, called Cooperativa Cacao, and they were making chocolate. And their slogan for this chocolate, to brand it or to market it, was "Resistir es reexistir." So to resist is to re-exist. And I was very, and which then I came to learn is a common phrase, or in the south of Mexico among the Zapatistas and other initiatives in Oaxaca. And I was just very intrigued by this idea of re-existing, and the way this cooperative started, Cooperativa Cacao, just a couple who had a child and wanted to get out of the city of Mexico City and move to the south, and started making chocolate. And they formed this cooperative, which is by now it's like a small community center where people come together to make chocolate. And they just wanted to exist differently. So I really like this idea of resistir es reexistir, and how to exist differently. And then as to the question that Florine was asking about how to, like which seed to plant to support each other, I don't know, but I would need something nourishing to my soul, because and I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what I'm asking for, but definitely something that is feeding or nourishing my soul as well somehow. And I wonder what that means to others, but or if that's of concern to others.
Following the re-existent idea, I was thinking that maybe this re-existence have something to do with trying to see or exercise this awareness in the small things, in these little things that Beatriz and Yao were saying. Because I don't know, I was remembering about how this culture of bacteria and yeasts, they actually live together, and maybe being together is just through a line, through a thread to connect or to come close to the other. And I don't know, I was with this image that maybe this resistance is just throwing a line through it that maybe it's little, so much little, but make something like a surface together, make words together, make material. I don't know.
It's two things to do at the same time. Grab the thing and unmute. I just wanted to share that I'm surprised positively, like how quickly it seems that you, or a couple of the comments I heard now, like go in a similar direction, that I was playing around in a train coming here to the island when I didn't have internet, and I was also playing with the words of resist, like and resilience, and something I'm concerned with a lot is regeneration. And I thought, I'm tired with all these re's, like it's always against something, or maybe it even implies going back to something. And I what is actually behind there, without looking it up in the internet, because I had no internet, like what is silience, what is sistence? And so I, with sistence, like from resistance, I thought like, I don't want to look up the Latin root, but rather like, isn't that sis dance, like sisters dancing, or something like that? And there's so much joy. There would be a lot of joy in there, and not all the heaviness of resisting. Like, and in the end, I looked it up. It's like standing up against something continuously. Sounds so hard. And resilience is like there. When you cut it short, it's silence. Maybe the silence. That's not correct. Of course, it comes from salire, which is also like to spring back. And again, there's dancing in it, and the salire. So we need to dance again, maybe. And what Karim said, like, bring us joy in all of that. Maybe that's a crucial point. And that's, maybe is this also in the direction of Yael, what you said, like resistance can be very small. And I mean, of course, food is a lot of joy if it's good food. So maybe we all need to just enjoy a bit more. I don't know. And then I have a question, because I didn't really get yet, like Beatrice in Berlin and Beatrice in Rio de Janeiro, and also Phoebe, like what kind of resistances are you talking about? Like what you're involved with? If you want to elaborate on that maybe a bit. Putting it back.
Well, I don't know if I define myself as being resistant, but I think that's like I work in a non-profit art and environment organization, and I don't know. I mean, this idea of like scale when it comes to thinking of how we define resistance, I think is something that I'm struggling with also, like just to define what my own interest in it is. And I'm thinking just on a, like my immediate thought on this personal scale was just the idea of being vegetarian or vegan, because it's like one decision that you make for yourself, but ultimately it has a sort of ripple effect in like the community that you live with, as people slowly adapt. So it's like one small change, one small step. And I think that it's good to break down this idea of like that resistance has to be this massive thing, but at the same time, part of me thinks that it does too, because somehow it like or maybe that's just because it's hard to see the changes that are happening. I mean, even on this very small example of just being vegetarian or vegan, it's like over a very long period, and any sort of
effort towards changing any systemic injustice is long and it's slow, and often it's beyond the scope of our lifetime. But just, I think for me now, like the idea of changing the way I think about time and how others can think about time and relating to environment and climate is already like one sort of step towards resisting something.
I have a similar point of view like Phoebe. I also wouldn't describe myself as a person who belongs to a part of resistance or like something like a huge movement. But I can see little steps or actions in my daily life that make me think or make me feel like I am part of a kind of resistance. Like, for instance, for me, where it's very direct is the fact that I'm an immigrant and I work in a very German context at the university in Dresden. It's rather a city. I mean, I don't know many more people who are immigrant in that university, for instance, working there. I mean, and that makes me feel very part of a resistance in the way I have to deal with daily things. Or, for instance, now in Berlin there is a huge movement because of the regulation of the rent of renting an apartment, the prices and so on. Last weekend I went to a demonstration that we were 10,000 people demonstrating for a regulation of the prices. That also makes me feel a part of a resistance, and I would say it's more a daily life thing. Also, for immigrants, just for me, also this fact with the identity, you belong here, but also I'm very, very rooted in Spain. I still have my friends and so on. So this duality also feels kind of a resistance.
For me, it's really hard to see these movements separately. Resistance and resilience and re-existence. I don't know. Maybe I think there's something to do with what Beatriz was saying about being immigrant, but also there are people who can think the life, the daily life, and every move in the world cannot stop thinking this life as a resistance, and it's also an act of resilience and re-existence, because these three things are not separated. I don't know if I understand the question, but that's it.
Sorry, I think that makes perfect sense. I just wanted to jump in again because I suddenly had this realization. I was thinking of the novels of Octavia Butler. There's this series, the Parable of the Talents and Parable of the Sower. And I mean, just this idea of the seed, like we're each of us is seeds. Each of us is an earth seed. And so in us, like we have this embodied sort of potential to change things. And just in our contact with people and in talking to people, it's also like resistance. I think that was all I wanted to add.
That was such a beautiful example. I was thinking also, when we talked about like the everyday life and the small steps, of examples of, I really like what you said, Florine, about the joy. So that element of resistance, and I was reminded both, like very extreme situation, both during the Holocaust, there was a group of women that created a recipe book, sort of working through these memories and trying to create the space of connecting to something joyous and beautiful in a space that was, as a resistance to the space around them that was so the opposite of all of that. And in a totally different context, I recently read a conversation with Palestinian women cooking for a holiday in the midst of kind of the latest crisis in Gaza, trying to cook and maintain sort of holiday culinary traditions as a form of resistance. So trying to keep these moments of normalcy and this connection through food, sort of maintaining that connection to joy and to everyday life, to the beauty of everyday life in the midst of circumstances that are, far from that.
That's been two really beautiful examples, and maybe this is unfortunately already the time that we slowly need to close this round. And once again, I feel it's only like a little placebo for meeting in reality at the food festival. On the other hand, probably we couldn't all be there. It's a long travel for some of you guys. Maybe the backstage could give us a little sign if we have 5 to 10 minutes more. I've heard there could be the option if you guys have the time. If someone doesn't have the time, please shake your hand. If you need to leave at 7 sharp. Okay, amazing. Pedro, how does it look like? Can we get 5 extra minutes and we don't need to rush? Sure, amazing. So, cool. Because this is so many topics, so rich, and we just starting to get an idea, I think, about what we all talk about. So my suggestion would be that we do a little check out again, where we include like what we take with us from this round, and where maybe we see points where we can continue some sort of interconnection, or where we would like to dive a bit deeper, know more. And we all have our email addresses, I think, in some email that Margot sent around. This is a way to reconnect as well. I would love to have met you all in real life. And maybe I'll start, like whoever wants to start the checkout just takes the feather, the mic, and passes it on to the next person in the circle. It's always hard to say someone has to start, right? Karim, you came last. You have to check out first.
Oh, that's how it works. Well, I'm taking away this image or the metaphor of the picnic blanket, which I love. Instead of setting the table, sitting down on a blanket together. You can hear me, yeah, against the sea, or is it too loud? Yeah, okay. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Florine. I'm also going to go back to Octavia Butler. Thank you, Phoebe, for that. I've been meaning to reread her. Also, like this reminder about scale, and that, resistance happens at different scales. That was very encouraging for me to hear. So I appreciate several of you bringing that up. And then I really appreciate Beatrice from Rio connecting resilience and resistance. And what was the third one? I forget now. And just showing that there's different sides of the same everyday struggle. But also with any struggle come beautiful forms of solidarity. So the two sides always go together. So this dialogue was very, very much in the spirit of solidarity. I wish we can continue the conversation over email and learn more about your work. Okay, that's my checkout.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciated this conversation. I have similar points from with Karim that I think just coming back to this idea of this embodied resistance that we have, like in each of us, this potential, like you said, Beatrice, that it's like a part of our everyday life that you can't sort of dissociate one from another. And also like what Yael has been bringing up, just this idea that of everyday resistance rather than like just to bring it back to something that's very tangible as well, like this materiality. I mean, that's why we're all interested in food, I think, or at least personally. It's also the body is something that you can do with it, and precisely that's why it would have been so great to meet in person, because I don't know, the screen thing for me, like I can't. So yes, thank you all very much, and I really appreciated hearing from all of you.
I can be next. Yeah, also a great pleasure for me to be here. I read on the PDF at the beginning that I should not prepare anything, I should not read anything, and I should expect a dialogue. And I'm really amazed about so many ideas and how well we could handle this dialogue. And also, in 1 hour to condense everything, I think it makes it pretty rich. I take the idea of joy, I think, because I really liked it. Yeah, if you want to say something, you can give back.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Beatrice. I have to leave, and I think I've said all I can, and I'm just putting down my Instagram too, because that's, if you're interested, it's all about food and art, and there's a lot of resistance examples there if people are interested. There we go. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Thank you, Yael. Bye. Beatrice, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I will just finish. Yeah, this idea of joy that at the end, the conclusion is resistance and resilience comes always together, and also what Beatrice said comes together in everyday life, and there is no possibility to separate it. So at least let's have some joy while fighting with the resistance, because otherwise, I mean, we have to deal with it. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it too. Thank you all for the conversation. And I think I will take with me this thing about the little things, the daily things, the materials, and that's it. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you all for your sharings and your inspiration. It was a lot. I have a bit of idea what I could suggest to continue this conversation. At the same time, we're probably all a bit like too much on the screen already. So here's a few ideas. Like we could maybe drop something in the email where we all have our ideas, something that brings us joy, where we think the others could have joy with it too. Maybe related to our work, to our activism, to whatever like makes us happy. And if we find the time and have the energy, we could even meet up for another virtual picnic with dance. Let's see if we're inspired, if we feel like this would be a nice circle to enhance our level of joy, to nurture our resistances. Let's see what develops. It was a beautiful pleasure to meet you all virtually. Thank you for this dialogue. Yeah, have a beautiful evening, or maybe it's just the afternoon or noon in Rio. Hope to meet you again sometime, somewhere. We could all unmute now if you want to. Last ideas before we're put in the offline nirvana?
Thank you, Florine, for preparing on the train on your way to the session and for
Yeah.
hosting us on the blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. Pleasure. It was quite chaotic, but I felt like it maybe fitted the format, hopefully. Yeah.
No, it
Yeah,
was
good.
great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye, gente.
Yeah, and
Bye.
thanks to the festival for bringing us
Ciao.
together. What a lovely
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah, it was great. Thank you, the
It's lovely to
organization
meet you
also.
all.
Yeah. But take care, guys, and much courage and joy for everything you do, and keep growing and sowing.
Thank you.
Nice.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Salam.
Oh yeah,
Bye
and
bye.
copy
Salam.
the Instagram.